Little Miss Recap contains adult language and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Little Miss Recap, the podcast where we are on Verdict Watch. Verdict Watch. Guys,
absolutely.
I'm Amy Archer, and I am so honored to have Jodene Weber with me today. Many of you know her from her Patreon, Caught in My Web, but also she's been all over with Karen Reed coverage because you are kind of the expert in this case.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I have been following it daily, and it is the trial that keeps on giving. People are fascinated, confused, angry.
Yeah.
Polarized. It is unbelievable. This trial has captivated the nation.
As we speak, it is 1:00 Eastern time on June 26th. We are waiting a verdict. It could come in.
That is correct. So
you
could get me right at the key moment here. We'll have to see.
Let's just start there and work backwards. Do you think this will be a quick deliberation? Do you think we'll have a verdict today?
I'm hopeful for one, but it would not surprise me if we don't.
Okay.
I do not think we will see a conviction, in my opinion. I agree. Though, I think we're at 50-50, either acquittal or a hung jury.
Oh.
Because you only need one juror to have a hung jury.
So then in a hung jury, she's okay, right? Or do they retry?
Well, that is up to the prosecution. Okay. Do they want to retry? Now, there is such a public outcry that if it were to be a hung jury, there is so much, shall we say, discontentment in Canton, Massachusetts, with the fact that this trial in the first place was brought forward. Many people feel this is a waste of taxpayers' money, that there's this parallel federal investigation looking into public corruption in this case, and that the local prosecutor should not have brought this case to begin with. However, the prosecution did request, in conjunction with the defense, to hold off on having this trial, and the judge denied that. Okay. Now, it's really, though, the district attorney's decision, after reviewing the materials that were received from the federal government, to still go forward. And he did. So I think, there's a lot of people in Canton, Massachusetts, aside from Karen Reed, and aside from another case known as the Sandra Birchmore case, which also involves alleged public corruption by police officers. Okay. There are just a lot of citizens there that are very worried about their safety because of the incompetence that has been exposed through this trial and through this testimony.
One of the things that has been so interesting to me is following you as a former FBI. What was your exact title? I
was a special agent.
Going through all of the issues with the collecting of the evidence and the investigation itself. So your drumbeat that you have been, shouting from the rooftops has been, this case was not handled properly.
Correct.
Do you feel that the prosecution or that the defense has proven that, kind of without trying to prove that?
Absolutely. I think even the prosecution has proved that unintentionally.
Whoops.
I think, to give everyone in a nutshell what this case is about.
Yes.
Karen Reed is a Massachusetts woman on trial for the murder of her then police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe. She is accused by the prosecution of going out and drinking that night with him and some other people, going to a couple bars, and then ultimately going to a residence in Canton, Massachusetts at 34 Fairview Road. The prosecution alleges that she was mad at John O'Keefe and deliberately hit him with her SUV and then left him to die in the snow on the lawn of this property. And there was this massive blizzard coming in that night. And that's what she's accused of. Now, Karen Reed claims she's being set up by the homeowner at 34 Fairview Road, who also, at the time of this incident on January 29th, 2022, he was a Boston police officer. Mm-hmm. And that may seem or sound far-fetched. However, when we go through the evidence of this trial, you can see why there are legitimate questions about how this was handled and what some of these people who were present at that home that night, what they have done subsequent to that night and how they have behaved and how their testimonies and stories have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So walk me through, connect something for me, if you will. So one of the issues that I have, and I've been following, like I said, your coverage, but I don't feel like maybe I wasn't paying attention when this was addressed. So I think one of the presiding theories is that there was some kind of fight in the house, right? And that he was either murdered in the house or something happened in that house that then they decided to drag him outside and throw him outside. Was there a moment, like, how did they, I guess I'm having a hard time with, like, how do you go from, oh shit, we just accidentally killed this guy, to, but Karen Reed hit something with her car, so let's drag him out in the snow, make it look like it was him that she hit. Like, did they know that she had a broken tail? Like, how do we get there?
So that is a very, very good question. So you are correct. That is the defense theory, that John O'Keefe did, after being dropped off by Karen Reed, go into the house and then go down into the basement, and that a physical altercation took place in the basement. The German Shepherd dog was also allegedly down in that basement, according to the defense, and they contend something happened. He was injured with the skull fracture. The dog attacked his arm, and that ultimately later on, after 3:30 in the morning, John O'Keefe was put out in that yard to be found. Now, here's where there is a lot of speculation, because Karen Reed did not want him to go to this party. They were arguing. Okay, she was tired. She didn't feel good. She wanted to go home.
And they were all real drunk.
Everybody was drunk.
The fact that they were driving around is terrifying in and of itself.
But yes, both she and John O'Keefe were well above the legal intoxication limit. They had multiple drinks at this bar, and that was shown to the jury. All these videos and the receipts and the purchases. But it's important to note that while at the bars that night, they were described by every single witness that was there as lovey-dovey. It's only when they get in the car and they're going to this after party, she didn't feel good. She wanted to go home. John O'Keefe has custody of his niece and nephew, and he is their guardian, or was their guardian at this time. And the niece is home. The nephew's at a sleepover, but the niece is home. And so Karen Reed's like, well, look, it's almost 12:30 in the morning. We got to get home. In any event.
And she has a medical condition, right? Does she have Crohn's disease?
She has MS. She has MS. And it is my understanding, based on what her defense attorney said in court, that she had a multitude of surgeries in the last 18 months. I believe it was a colectomy where part of the colon was removed. Yeah. So she's got some very serious medical issues. And she probably
just wants to go home and go to bed.
Well, yes. Yeah. So in any event, she alleges John gets out of the car, and she's waiting, and 1 minute turns into 2, turns into 5, and he doesn't come back out. She tries to text him. He's not responding. She tries calling. He's not answering. Well, now she goes from being aggravated to being totally pissed. Okay, she's mad. Yeah. And we hear the jury is played these voicemails that she leaves for him, and she's screaming at him, and she's calling him, some choice words. But she accuses him of being a pervert, and that
over and over again.
Which to me, I found that to be very significant, because just a few weeks before they had been on a trip in Aruba. And he had also gotten extremely drunk on that trip. And she thought she saw something with a family friend. Now, the family friend testified that no.
On the phone or in person?
In person.
Okay.
Like he stumbles out of the bar. He's going back to the room.
Yeah.
Runs into this family friend. Karen Reed's looking for him, sees him kind of what she thought was extra friendly to this family friend. Mm-hmm. The family friend said, no, John's like my brother. Get over it. But Karen Reed says, no, I know what I saw. Didn't like it. Okay. So now he's not answering. He's allegedly gone into this property. Now, the people at the property say they never saw John O'Keefe. The defense claims he walked in, went immediately down the stairs, and it's only a few steps from the front door to the basement steps. And some of the guys at the party were missing, namely the homeowner, Brian Albert, and an ATF agent, Brian Higgins.
Right.
And during Brian Albert's testimony, he said he took the dog downstairs, which would indicate the basement because everybody else was on that first floor level.
Right.
So there is a gym down there with barbells. There's also another set of stairs from that basement that leads outside to a bulkhead door.
The doors,
and that has cement steps. So they have his Apple Health data that shows he ascended and descended some steps. And I think it was one of those staircases that you walk a flight down, you get to a landing,
have a landing,
you turn, and then you go down another flight. So was he down in that basement? Were words exchanged? And did he try to attempt to leave and someone grabbed him and he fell back and hit his head and then the dog jumped on him? Something like that is what the defense contends occurred. Meanwhile, Karen can't get a hold of him. And she's got this history from a few weeks ago in Aruba where he's denying anything happened, but she knows what she saw. Now he wants to go to this party. She doesn't want him to go. On the way driving there, one of the fellow partygoers was trying to give them directions over the phone. And she says, oh, well, you got to go by Bella's house. Well, Bella is the daughter of a woman that John O'Keefe used to date. So that also may have been, in her intoxicated state in her head. In any event, she can't get a hold of John O'Keefe. And so she ultimately, when she wakes up at like 4:30 in the morning and sees he never came home, and she's sobered up enough to realize, okay, he would not have left his niece alone because I wasn't supposed to stay here. She even sent him a message saying, I went back to Mansfield trying to get a response out of him.
Yeah, like your child's alone. This child is alone.
And that was a bone of contention for her. The fact that she felt like, look, my needs in this relationship are not being met. I am helping you care for these children, but we still need as a couple to be able to get away on our own, have our own private time. And I'm feeling like I'm taking on all this responsibility. I'm not appreciated.
And she felt used. She was feeling used.
She felt used. And so she had this minor flirtation with the ATF agent between the Aruba trip.
Higgins?
That's Brian Higgins.
Yeah.
So after the Aruba trip and this alleged incident occurred and the night in question, she has kind of a text message flirtation with Brian Higgins, the ATF agent. And it's very clear Brian Higgins was down. He just wanted to make sure, okay, are you in or out with John O'Keefe? Because I don't want to step in anything, but hey, if you're leaving him, Karen, we won't miss a beat. I'm in. Well, Karen, you can tell when she kind of talks to Brian Higgins over these text messages, she conveys quite a lot about, look, I'm not getting what I need out of this relationship. I never wanted to have children. He's really not, John O'Keefe is really not cut out for this. I think she was concerned about his alcohol consumption. That was my read on it.
Yeah.
And I think, quite frankly, it's one of those things where you kind of realize like, well, I've got all this time invested in this relationship and you want to make it work, but is it going to work? And you see the signs on the wall.
The sunken cost fallacy. Yep.
Are you going to cut the cord or not? Yep. That's essentially where they kind of were at. So she tried to kind of flirt a little bit with Brian Higgins, but I really kind of think it was more just to see Would this make John O'Keefe jealous? That, hey.
So did John O'Keefe find out about it?
He saw her on his camera systems and asked her, is there something going on? And it was almost like she wanted him to
find
catch
out.
her, because she did kiss Brian Higgins. And so, but then she ghosted Brian Higgins several days before the night in question.
Okay.
And Brian Higgins was not happy about that. He won't admit that while testifying, but it's clear because the night in question, they're all at this bar called the Waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends her a text saying, well, what's going on, Karen? You're ghosting me here. And she doesn't respond. Well, then there is video.
Had to be driving him crazy.
Exactly. The male ego, and he was ticked. And she is so lovey-dovey with John O'Keefe that night. All the witnesses commented, they're happy, they're kissy, they're rubbing each other's backs. In any event, at 11:57, there is a video from the bar where you can see Brian Higgins kind of call out to John O'Keefe, like, hey, come over here, come over here. Well, then at 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sends John O'Keefe a text message, you come in here, meaning to 34 Fairview Road.
Yeah.
Brian Higgins was clearly looking for John O'Keefe that night.
And he was, I'm assuming, and this is pure conjecture, that he was going to tell him or going to confront him in some way. I think
so. Yeah. And given John O'Keefe's intoxication level that night, I don't think the fact that a physical altercation could have occurred is that far of a stretch, frankly.
I don't either. Not when everybody's that drunk. Think about the misogynistic culture, right? A bunch of police officers and men in, male-driven professions all hanging out, trashed in a gym type setting.
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know. This doesn't sound good.
So Brian Higgins was one of the first people to leave 34 Fairview Road. And then he makes this excuse that he goes to the Canton Police Department to, at first he says, do administrative work. Then he says to move his vehicles around, his surveillance vehicles, because the plows would need to plow the parking lot. And he has an office at this police department, even though he's a federal agent, which is odd. That's an odd detail to begin with. But then he kind of says, well, I was doing both. But really, you've been drinking for hours. And he drinks, hard liquor drinks.
Yeah, why wouldn't he just go home and pass out?
Go home. Well, he goes to that police station. And then he's one of the first people to come back to 34 Fairview Road the next morning after John O'Keefe's body has been discovered. And I think, if I remember correctly, they found that he was at the Canton Police Department pretty much all day long during that blizzard that day. 18 times in and out of that police office. Well, what are you doing there? There's a blizzard going on.
Yeah.
Well, he's there. They can tell by his key card swipes. He's there when Karen Reed's vehicle is delivered on the tow truck. So it's clear he's inserting himself into the investigation. Now, why would you do that if this was a legitimate vehicular strike? Now, back to your original question. I've gone a long way around.
No. I appreciate this.
Had Karen Reed not gotten up at 4:30 in the morning and realized John never came home, I panicked, and not started calling people and go out and search, the theory of the defense is that John O'Keefe was beaten up and the body was put out in the front yard so that it would look like he was hit by a plow. I'm pretty sure that's the theory there.
Okay.
To make it look like, the plow must have come by during the big blizzard and didn't see John O'Keefe. Yeah. I think the fact that Karen Reed just happened to find him before the police did, because quite frankly, when the plow driver noticed a vehicle parked in front of the Alberts home, he went by at 2:30 and there was nobody on the lawn and no vehicle. Then he does another pass at 3:30 a.m. and there's this Ford Edge parked in front right where it would obstruct John O'Keefe's body, where you couldn't be able to see it. And normally the plow drivers are supposed to report any residents that have their vehicles out because it impedes plowing. Well, he knew this was the Alberts' home, and he knows all the Albert family.
Right.
And so he's like, as a favor to the Alberts, I didn't call it in and report it. But because he's driving this big truck,
yeah,
he remembers, I got to navigate around this Ford Edge.
Oh, yeah, you would remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and of course, once the Ford Edge is moved, then the body is observable. Now, maybe the theory was, we'll park the truck here and, bring the body out, and they weren't counting on the plow to come by.
Right.
Because, that wouldn't make sense that had he called in that vehicle and the cops came.
Yeah.
Then the plow wouldn't have been able to hit John O'Keefe.
Right.
So
right.
it just was.
Whose Ford Edge was it? Do we know?
Well, Brian Albert, the Boston cop that owned the home at the time, that was his work vehicle, a Ford Edge.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And so do we know because there's also a theory out there that Colin Albert,
yes,
nephew of Brian Albert, may have hit him.
So Colin Albert is another key figure. He has testified at this trial. He is the nephew of Brian Albert. And what is interesting is that Colin used to live just a few houses down from John O'Keefe. And there was history between John O'Keefe and Colin Albert's family. He had to go talk to the parents and say, look, your kid's throwing beer cans in my yard. And so
Colin Albert is a real bro. He's a real bro.
He's, he's got some spice to him, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in any event, the Albert family, Colin Albert's family, had a nickname for John O'Keefe. Like pretty much, it was a nickname based on a cartoon about a curmudgeon who was like, get off my yard.
Get off my lawn. Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it's a little ironic that John O'Keefe would end up dead on a lawn.
Yeah.
In any event. But there was a lot of controversy at trial because Colin claimed, well, I was picked up by Allie McCabe, who is also Brian Albert's niece, but from the other side of the family.
Yeah, Jen McCabe.
Yes, Jen McCabe's daughter.
Yeah.
Allie was supposed to pick Colin up at 12:10 a.m. That was the story. All the Alberts said, oh no, Colin got picked up at 12:10. Colin wasn't here.
Yeah.
Well, we were able to see through Life 360 data and deleted text messages and what looked to be altered text messages that pickup never occurred. So where was Colin? That's the big question. So it's possible Colin was involved in that mix too.
Yeah.
And there have been photographs of him with bruised hands.
Yeah, that he, like an idiot, put up on Visco like right after.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is another question. Did he make a crack? And one of the things that just came out through the final defense witnesses, the defense took 2 accident reconstructionists from the FBI investigation. And both of these PhD accident reconstructionists said, John O'Keefe was not hit by a vehicle. The vehicle didn't have damage that would be commensurate with that, and John O'Keefe didn't have injuries commensurate with that. He didn't have bruising. He didn't have fractures. He didn't have your typical injuries.
Right.
What they contend, and they even built a cannon to replicate this, they believe John O'Keefe took a cocktail glass and threw it at Karen Reed's vehicle and cracked the taillight. And they claim they were able to replicate that with a cocktail glass being launched from this cannon at 37 miles per hour. It produced the almost identical damage to a taillight. So the question becomes, did Colin, who was allegedly leaving this residence around this time, see that, make a crack? Did that ignite some sort of physical altercation?
Right.
So that's another possibility.
And this case has everything. Like these Alberts, how to cover up a crime 101. They sell the house. They get rid of the dog. Didn't they do something to the floor?
Yes, they've ripped up the floor. They've sold the house. He has retired. The dog was rehomed. Brian Albert destroyed his cell phone. Brian Higgins got rid of his phone and destroyed the SIM card. Jennifer McCabe, who is the sister-in-law of Brian Albert and was one of the women with Karen Reed when John O'Keefe was discovered, she deleted multiple phone calls to John O'Keefe from the night in question. And what the defense alleges is you weren't calling John O'Keefe because you were trying to locate him. You were trying to locate John O'Keefe's phone. That's what you do when you lose a phone. You call the phone to try to find it.
Yep.
So that's another thing. But there, with Jen McCabe, there was a lot of controversy because there is a search that was mistyped, but it's has long to die in the cold. Now, the defense claims through the federal computer analyst that was part of the FBI investigation that search took place at 2:27 a.m.
Which is before Karen Reed was even back on that scene. She's in bed sleeping it off at this point.
Before anybody finds John O'Keefe.
Yep.
And what's interesting is that there are calls between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. that both of them claim we didn't do. Those are butt dials. And Jen McCabe also said, I did 6 butt dials.
Okay.
So they're all having these butt dials. Well, anybody with an iPhone knows that's not going to happen. You don't answer with a butt dial and you don't call with a butt dial. So that's a problem. But Jen McCabe and the prosecution claims, no, she did this Google search at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning at the behest of Karen Reed, who asked, how long can you survive without a coat on and out in the cold?
And why would she assume that he was out in the cold? Because this is before. So they're alleging that Karen Reed asked them to search this before they found John's body or after?
No, after.
Because that doesn't make sense either. Why would she be like, she knows he's dead. He's dead. Why are you searching how long to die in the cold?
He went out without a coat. And so he is found with snow on him in the snow. She, according to Jen McCabe, said Karen Reed asked, how long can you survive out in the cold? And one of the EMS workers also testified that he was asked by Karen Reed. She asked me, without a jacket, how long can someone survive out in the cold? And, that was really some of the testimony I wanted to hear. Like, if your regular body temperature is at 98, when he was brought into Good Samaritan Hospital, he had a temperature of 80.1. Wow. How long at that temperature level that night would it have taken for his body to decrease? That is something I didn't have answered that I would have wanted answered.
Yeah.
But in any event, hypothermia really was part of the reason, his cause of death. Not only the skull fracture, but also the hypothermia, the exposure
and the medical examiner could not rule this murder.
Correct. And which angers the people of Canton to no end. Yes. Why are we, the taxpayers, paying for a murder trial when the medical examiner can't even tell if it's an accident or a homicide?
So let me ask you a big picture question. Why do we think this case has captured people are wrongfully imprisoned and convicted all the time? What is it about this case?
I think because it brings in so many elements. Number one, you've got a woman who claims I'm being set up, and I'm being set up by a bunch of misogynistic men. And I don't use that term lightly because the lead investigator on this case, within 17 hours, he never even went to the crime scene. But the very night John O'Keefe is pronounced dead, that day, 17 hours after that, the lead investigator is texting with high school friends in other states. And saying that Karen Reed, she's going to face some charges. Basically, the fix is in.
Yeah.
He calls her a see you next Tuesday.
I couldn't believe that. And I love that the judge made him say it in court.
He wishes that she would kill herself.
Oh, Jesus.
That he was looking for nudes on her phone and makes jokes. I haven't found them yet. He talks about her medical conditions, about her having a leaky balloon knot.
He's gross.
Just disgusting.
Yep.
Disgusting. Yep. So the people of Canton, I mean, they are just beside themselves because one, this woman has, I mean, she's going through all her life savings, same with her parents, to have the best defense possible.
Right.
And most people don't have that kind of money.
No.
So what chance would you have? And when they see this trial and they see the destroyed phones, and another thing, there are at least 3 camera systems that are missing videos at crucial times. There is video missing from the public library and town hall, which would show when she drove by what her taillight would look like after leaving 34 Fairview Road. That's missing. There's video that's been missing from the police sally port when her vehicle is delivered after being seized. There is video missing from John O'Keefe's Ring camera system that would have showed what her taillight looked like too. All these areas where we could get a real good idea what her taillight looked like, it's missing. Now, maybe one system you would have a malfunction, but at all these crucial times, people just, it looks really suspicious. And then the first search that was done at 34 Fairview Road, not one piece of taillight was found by anyone, by any of the law enforcement, by any of the EMS or responders.
Yeah.
There was only a few inches of snow at that time. And you've got all that foot traffic of firemen, EMS, cops, civilians who responded and were doing CPR on John O'Keefe. Nobody turned up one piece of taillight. And then hours later, some pieces were found. And then in the subsequent 3 weeks, daily, more and more. Ultimately, there are 47 pieces of glass found.
Wow.
People don't buy that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And she's got like a Lexus RX 350 or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, stay tuned. Little Miss Recap will be right back after these words. Wow. This is okay. So, did you see Murder in Boston? That docuseries that dealt with
the Stewarts? Yes, I did.
So, I don't feel like this is an accident that this area of the country, the police force, is being so widely looked at or so closely looked at after that documentary airs.
Well, if you look at my Twitter feed, jodeneweber.com, I posted the Canton Select Committee town meeting from last night. And the first 15 minutes of that meeting are open forum where citizens can come forward and address the board. And you can watch the first 15 minutes, and it's one citizen after another saying, our police are inept, they're corrupt, we've been told to wait for this trial, there is blatant misogyny. Chris Albert, the brother of Brian Albert, is a selectman on the board. Your family is harassing these citizens of this community. Anyone who speaks up against you, you retaliate. Our kids don't get on baseball teams. We don't get jobs. I mean, it's just terrible what these citizens are alleging is going on in Canton, Massachusetts. And it's not just the Canton PD, it's the Massachusetts State Police.
Yeah.
And when you see all the corruption, or whether you think it's corruption or whether you think it's ineptitude, it's wrong. And so the concern here is not only is Karen Reed getting framed, and could this happen to me or you or someone who doesn't have the financial means to fight this, but what if you're John O'Keefe? What if you're a victim of a crime? What kind of confidence would you have in both your local and state authorities to be able to solve things and to be able to have a conviction hold up?
And I think some of the frustration around this case, too, is like communities of color have been saying this and screaming it from the mountaintops for decades, if not a century.
My subscribers say that all the time. Like, if this was a minority beyond just a woman, but, you know, a person of color, forget it. Forget it.
Yep.
Nobody would look twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is frustrating. And I do think this has been happening all along, but people are just, you're right. I think it might be the misogyny that is so interesting here. Is it's so on display. Like, women know it's there.
Absolutely.
But this is on display. This is being rooted out, and it is fascinating.
It is. It really is. So you've got like this big family, and like, you know, don't go against the family kind of thing. And there's all these, you know, family members. and phone calls and text messages and, who's helping whom. And so you've got that. And then you've got Karen, who's like the outsider. And then, you've got the police involved and corruption. And you've got sex and relationships and cheating on boyfriends and that. And
a lot of drinking.
And then you've got the flavor of just the Boston accents. Everybody's like, I parked the car in the yacht, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so it really is, and it is a whodunit. It's like, did she do it? Or did someone else do it?
Right. Like, could two things be true? Could she have done it, but the police are also inept?
Right. And it's so polarizing because it's very clear these FBI hired accident reconstructionists who are an independent third party. They don't work for the prosecution. They don't work for the defense. Either side could have called them. They said John O'Keefe was not hit by a car.
Right.
So that makes people think, well, if he wasn't hit by a car, something happened at that house. And why wasn't there a search warrant done? Why weren't the Alberts
They didn't even go in the house,
They
correct?
didn't even go in the house. Why weren't they treated like everybody else would have been treated if there was a dead body in their yard?
Yeah.
And it was a cop. And Brian Albert, as a cop, didn't even come outside.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Wow.
There's cops outside, ambulances outside, firefighters outside.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it? Like, I don't have to go out there.
Oh my gosh, there's a dead, John O'Keefe's on the front lawn. He's a fellow officer and doesn't even come outside, testifies, I didn't want anything to do with that, but then shows up yesterday for closing arguments and sits with the O'Keefe family. Like he's the godfather.
Wow. So what are you looking for from the jury here? What are some key facts that you think will inform their decision the most? Do you think that it was the inept handling of the evidence? Do you think it was the emotion? Like, what do you think the jury are debating right now?
Well, I do think the accident reconstructionist will carry weight. I don't think you're going to find 12 people that are going to disregard that.
I agree.
I think there will be some very strong jurors who will stand by, no, this is not consistent. I do think you could potentially have jurors that don't understand all the taillight pieces. And how did they said they found this, or how could this hair get on that bump? That was another thing. There's this tiny piece of John O'Keefe's hair that is on the bumper of Karen Reed's car.
That survived a blizzard.
Oh, survived a blizzard, miles and miles being towed and driving all over Massachusetts practically. Yeah. Now, I grew up in Wisconsin. And I live in Western Pennsylvania.
Yes.
There's no way that hair would have stayed. And
no
in
way.
The closing, the prosecution said, well, it was frozen to the taillight. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Nope. If that got on through a hit of John O'Keefe, it wouldn't have frozen immediately on that bumper panel. And it would have blown off when she drove away.
Yes.
So that to me is just ridiculous. And there were John O'Keefe's shirts and clothing were laid out to dry because they were bloody on butcher paper for days unsecured. Now, most people have hair on their clothing.
Yes, yes.
And there was glass that was found on the bumper that doesn't match glass from anything. So someone had to put that there.
Yeah.
Well, why would you think the hair is legitimate and the glass isn't? They're either both in or they're both out. And
they're either idiots or this is the hubris of them. Like, I'm just going to stick a piece of glass there. Nobody's going to question it.
Well, that's it. They didn't think there'd be testing. They would think most people would just plea out and say, oh, I was drunk. I must have hit him.
Yeah, because that's another thing. Somebody heard her say, I hit him. But Karen Reed says, I said, I hit him?
Well, what's interesting, yes, it's very much the My Cousin Vinny scenario.
Yes.
But what's interesting is all the people who say they heard her say, I hit him, it's not documented in a single police report.
At the time. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And a lot of one of the key people, Jen McCabe, when she first testified to the Commonwealth grand jury, she didn't say, Karen Reed said I hit him. It was only after her Google search that was alleged to be at 227, when that came out in a pretrial hearing and she started getting harassed and getting a lot of media attention, well, then when she subsequently testified before the federal grand jury, that's when all of a sudden
she remembered that.
hit him. Yes. Okay. So there's a lot. That's another problem, is the evolving testimony of a lot of the key players in this case.
Netflix has to be licking their chops right now.
They're filming. They're in court filming.
Okay. All right. Good.
So I think this is going to be looked at for years as far as just training and evidence response. I mean, we had Canton police officers who thought it'd be a good idea to take a leaf blower and blow the snow in a crime scene. We had another officer who said, well, I don't do that. I don't know how to use evidence tape. Really? You don't know how to use go home. Retire. You're done. This
is amazing. And we are all going to be glued to it. And please tell us, what are your plans when the verdict comes in? Are you jumping on Caught in My Web?
Here's my problem is that I leave town tomorrow with my children for a sports tournament. So if we don't get a verdict by today, and it's not looking great,
you'll be on the plane.
My podcasting equipment and broadcasting live from the hotel. But yes, and this is the thing. This is considered a relatively long trial. It went 9 weeks.
Yeah.
So am I worried that they don't have an instant verdict already? No. I could see 8 to 10 hours of deliberation. A lot depends on who your jury foreman is. And a lot of jury foremans take that role very seriously. We're going to go through each element. We're going to go around the room on each charge and ask, what are your thoughts? What are your questions? Let's discuss. Let's review. Let's take a look at things. We've got the time. Let's do a thorough job. So would I be surprised if we get to 8-9 hours of deliberation and they come back with a verdict? No. Okay. That would be normal to me. I mean, a lot of people, I think, get spoiled by like the Murdoch verdict and Mordello Daybell, which were just a few hours. But realistically, like when I think about Caitlin Armstrong from the Cyclist Love Triangle trial last fall, that took, I believe, 7 to 8 hours. So, and that was a slam dunk trial, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not too worried yet. I think if we get into 2 to 3 days, then we've got a hung jury situation. We do.
Okay. I can't see the prosecutor bringing this case again if it's hung jury. I just can't. I can't see it.
Well, I think the taxpayers would revolt because I think they're disgusted.
But then it becomes somebody has to be responsible for this man's death. I mean, this guy's dead.
A lot of people are hoping that something happens with the federal investigation.
Yeah.
Now, they are looking into public corruption. So it really just depends who the target of the public corruption is. Is it the trooper, Michael Proctor? Is it the DA, Michael Morrissey? Is it Brian Albert, the homeowner? Is it a combination of all of these people? Is it Brian Higgins with the ATF? He allegedly, if you believe social media, has proffered with the federal government, which means he's cooperating.
Yeah.
I think it will be interesting to see, because usually when you've got multiple subjects, the first one to the table gets the best deal.
Yeah. Remember that, listeners.
Now,
if you're
Brian
offered
Higgins,
a deal, take it.
I would tend to believe he would take a proffer because he's got 15 years as an ATF agent. You need 20 as a federal agent and the age of 50 in order to collect your pension.
Okay.
So I'm thinking
he wants to stay out of jail.
He wants to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
So, and I think he was under OPR investigation, which is Office of Professional Responsibility. That's like internal affairs in the federal government. That there was an OPR investigation. He's the federal employee, so it would make sense. It's about him. And I think it's because he destroyed that SIM card and that phone after there was a court order to preserve that phone.
That's crazy.
So if the FBI is flipping him, and he's cooperating so that he hopefully doesn't get fired by the ATF, then they've got to be asking him, tell us about Brian Albert. Tell us about Trooper Proctor. Tell us about Chief Berkowitz from the Canton Police Department. Tell us about Yuri Buchanan, another trooper involved. Tell us about the DA. What did the DA tell you about destroying your phone? He could be helping out against multiple targets.
Oh, this is so fascinating. And I feel like it never ends.
It doesn't. And this is, like I said, this is so engrossing because people are saying, look, you know, there are hierarchies in some of these towns where if you're not part of the family crowd,
100%,
you're an outsider. And the fix is in.
Yeah, 100%.
And I saw it at that, like I said, at that Canton Select Board meeting last night. This lady stood up and said, our kids can't get on the baseball team if the right families don't like us. Or if we talk and we call them out or we report what we see, we're retaliated against.
I got to see this. This is on your Twitter feed?
It's on my Twitter feed. I posted it today, jodeneweber.com. I really think people need to look. Now, there's also, parallel to this, there's this other case going on simultaneously.
Oh, I was going to ask you, is there another case we can look at? Okay,
yes, there's two big ones. Sandra Birchmore, that's the next big one I'll be covering in this area. She was a woman from Stoughton, Massachusetts, which is right next to Canton. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
They're neighboring communities.
Yeah.
When she was a teenager, she joined the Police Explorers group because she really liked police law enforcement.
Yeah.
Well, she was groomed by 3 police officers who ran this juvenile explorers program for kids. Okay. Ultimately, it came out that one of the officers started having sexual relations with her at the age of 15. Jesus. And then his twin brother, who was also an officer, did. And then another person who was the overall head of this explorers group. They all came under internal affairs investigation. They all 3 subsequently resigned. Now, this girl, Sandra, when she was 23, she was still engaged in a sexual relationship with this one police officer, Matthew Farwell. He was married at the time. His wife was pregnant. Sandra was pregnant. Sandra alleges she was pregnant with his baby. He has denied it. Okay. Ultimately, he goes to her apartment and says, we're done. She doesn't show up for work.
Oh, no.
And a few days go by. Police respond, doing a welfare check at the behest of her employer. And they found that, trigger warning, they find that she has died, allegedly by suicide, by hanging.
Okay. Okay.
The initial medical examiner ruled the death a suicide. Okay. The family of Sandra sued civilly because she was essentially statutory rape at 15 by this officer. They have sued. They have hired Michael Baden, a very famous forensic pathologist, to conduct an independent autopsy. 2 days ago, the Boston Globe printed his report. He has ruled her death a homicide. And what has everybody up in arms is that a lot of the same police officers that responded to 34 Fairview Road were the same ones that responded to Sandra Birchmore's apartment.
Okay.
And it's the same district attorney.
Okay.
And the Massachusetts State Police, they have to come to an unattended death. So
was she, not to be graphic, but was she pregnant when she died?
That 3 months is what has been reported. Now, apparently the fetal tissue was never tested to see definitively who the father was, right? Yeah. But that certainly could be done, you know. And so one of the things that upsets these local residents to no end is, why are none of these men in jail for statutory rape?
Right. Correct. Because when we hear internal affairs, we assume they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. They're not going to have their job anymore, but they should be in jail.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So I don't know if they can prove it. Now, there is an FBI investigation into Sandra Birchmore.
Okay.
And what my theory is I am currently researching that case. It's been a lot to do with Karen going on, but I'm diving in, and I'm halfway through the internal affairs report, and I've reached the part where it's acknowledged in the internal affairs report that there were photos and videos from these police officers' phones from Sandra. So what I think the FBI is looking into was, would Sandra be underage at the time?
Yeah.
And did they contain nudes or sexual material? Because that would be considered child pornography.
Correct.
And that would be a federal violation that the FBI would be able to go after. It's just a matter of, when was this material sent, and was she underage when she's depicted in the videos or photographs. That's what my read is at this point.
Okay.
And then certainly, is there public corruption? Were things brushed under the rug, and why aren't they being prosecuted? And is that something they're looking at the DA for? Is he under investigation for Sandra for not prosecuting these cops?
So where do we stand now with that case? Is
it
just
like I said, the 3 officers have resigned. No charges were brought.
Okay.
The family has sued, and as of 2 days ago, the family's independent pathologist has ruled it a homicide.
Okay.
The Stoughton police, what happened is Sandra grew up in Stoughton, and so this was the corruption and the grooming was by 3 Stoughton officers. But at the time of her death, she had moved to Canton, which is, like I said, the border town.
Okay, yeah.
That's why we have so much crossover, not only by the DA's office, but by the officers who responded.
So just a point of clarification. So the officer that...
The verdict is in.
The verdict is in.
I will be read at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, we'll be done. Quick question.
Okay.
The officer that Sandra Birchmore was involved with, was that one of the 3 who groomed her, or was this a new guy?
Was the officer... Say that again.
The one that she's involved with at the time of her death?
Yes.
Was that one of those 3 who had groomed her? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That was my call. All right, Jody, we're back. Tell everybody.
Oh, boy. Talk about a buzzkill. So a bunch of us just got a spam alert that there was a verdict, and there is not. So I got all excited for nothing. I thought we
were like, we gotta go.
The breaking news. Yeah, now there still could be one. They're going to deliberate until 4:00 this afternoon. So we could go through a round 2 here, Amy. So
no, that's okay. So I wanted to end properly. So let's. You told us about Sandra Birchmore. You're going to be covering that case.
Yes, and then another one that some of your listeners may be familiar with is the case of Brian Walsh. His wife, Anna Walsh, went missing on New Year's 2023, also from Canton, Massachusetts.
Are you kidding me?
This area, yes. She allegedly worked out of the Washington, D.C. area, and he claimed, she went to D.C. for work. Well, then her employer filed a welfare check, like she hasn't shown up.
Thank God these employers are watching out for these women.
Well, yes. Jesus. Now, it came out that Brian Walsh has been arrested for her murder. And it is believed that he dismembered her and took her to various trash stations in the Massachusetts area, which I didn't realize until covering this case, but some of my subscribers have informed me that there are parts of Cape Cod that don't have garbage pickup. You have to go to a dump and take your trash.
Okay.
So allegedly, Brian Walsh, he is accused of murdering his wife, Anna Walsh. They had 3 boys, I believe, and dismembered her and then dumped her at all these various trash places. Well, they found like 30 searches on various electronic devices in his home, like, basically how to dismember and, how to do all that. But allegedly, the lead investigator is Trooper Proctor.
Oh, my God.
And it's the same judge.
Okay.
It's the same judge.
So just tell everyone, you don't do daily podcasts, right?
I do.
It is daily. It is
5
daily.
days a week.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will be covering all of this ongoing, plus Koberger, plus everything else.
Plus, you have a higher tier where you
do have
cold
a higher
cases,
tier.
right? Or something else?
On Saturdays twice a month, I do cold cases. So I have a $5 tier and a $10 tier.
I got to
So
get
for
on
the
that
$5 tier, you get Monday through Friday coverage where we cover all the breaking news and we cover all the hot true crime documentaries as well.
Yes.
So like I'm covering Perfect Wife, the Sherry Papini documentary, which is out now on Hulu. We just finished up with season 2 of The Jinx.
Right. I loved The Jinx so much. Can I run my Bob Durst impersonation?
Yes, please.
So he's like, Bob, it's Bob, Deborah. I love that little guy. Love that little murderer.
Tell you what,
he was entertaining as hell. I mean, he was a terrible person, but entertaining as hell.
Well, and the fact he got away with it.
I know.
For so
only
long.
in Texas. Only in Texas can you get off for dismembering a body. Only in Texas.
Unbelievable. So yeah.
So you do a lot of good stuff. You are like my true crime go-to. Like I have you every morning. I'm starting my day with that dopamine hit of who's being murdered and what's going on.
Yes. So 5 days a week we're covering, and we cover all the big breaking stories, or at least I try to.
Right.
And certainly, Koberger's got a hearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
We may finally get a trial date tomorrow. There's potential.
I remember when that started, you were like, this could be years for this trial.
Well, they had said for the longest time, 2025. It's looking like 2025. I think it could even get bumped to 2026 at this point.
Wow.
I really do. And I'll tell you, that's going to be a trial to watch if it does go to trial. Yeah. If it does.
So they can find you at JodeneWeber.com, correct?
Yes, at Jodene Weber on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, and on Instagram at Weber Jodene. And my podcast is on Patreon.com. It's called Caught in My Web.
And I'll put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you so much. I love talking to you, and I hope that we can talk about Sandra Birchmore soon.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.